Hello, what culture? My name is Simon Miller, and welcome to yet another episode of SmackDown Ups and Downs. Now look, I just want to address a little something before we begin. Now, given its ups and downs, we treat both the Raw editions and the SmackDown editions as if they're one. There ain't no brand split here on the series. So look, I know sometimes I like a show more than you like a show, and a few of you come at me and you say, Simon, we think you're on the WWE payroll. Which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if I was on the WWE payroll, I would just give up to everything. It's not like Vince McMahon just calls me, is it? Hello? No, Vince, I can't talk right now. I'm doing ups and downs. I'm doing it right now. Please don't make me do that. I don't want to wear that. Doing a video, people will think I'm an idiot. More so. Welcome to Ups and Downs. My name is Simon Miller. Let's up those downs. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. SmackDown began with a 10-bell salute to remember the 9/11 attacks, which did indeed happen 17 years ago to the day when the show aired. And I thought it was a very touching tribute, and of course something we should never forget. And then that segued into a match between Jeff Hardy and Shinsuke Nakamura, and given how we did begin, I actually thought it was a nice way to break everything up. Just get on with the action, giving it up. It did remind me though that the US champion isn't even on Hell in a Cell, and that is frankly ridiculous. I mean, the least we could have done is kind of, injected the US championship into the Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton Hell in a Cell match and gone, hey, whoever's going to win that can then go on to face Shinsuke Nakamura. But no, we didn't do that, because who needs to give two about title belts? Anyway, we had a weird Hardy promo before it began. Jeff was talking about demons, and then he sang a little song for some reason that I think I was supposed to recognize, or we as fans were supposed to recognize. I didn't recognize it at all, and then you know how it ended. Jeff Hardy was about to hit Shinsuke with the Swanton Bomb. Randy Orton popped out of nowhere. He pushed him off the top rope. Is a DQ. The two brawled, with Hardy eventually getting the upper hand. He gave Randy Orton a Swanton Bomb, the one he was hoping to give to Nakamura. And yeah, it was a pretty decent match, hence the up that I gave at the start. However, we do also have to include a down here because of the way WWE is treating Shinsuke Nakamura. It's bollocks. Can I say bollocks? I don't actually know. I mean, we'll find out. It'll get beeped. I don't think I've ever said bollocks before. New ground. And an up for the dude or dudette that was holding this ups and downs sign on SmackDown. I'm that shallow. If you ask me to give you an up, I'll give you a darn up. Cut to a Miz and Maryse promo, and while these two are always very good, I thought the content of their interview was absolute gibberish, and not the gibberish that I particularly enjoy. Down. Maryse told us that she had returned to action only 5 months after giving birth, and that it took Daniel Bryan 3 years from here he retired. And then Miz chipped in, he went, yeah. And throughout that time, Brie Bella had to come back to work just to make the family money. All right. How do those two things tie in to any degree? I mean, it is actually very impressive that Maryse is already back to doing her thing, but that's got nothing to do with Daniel Bryan retiring. And if Brie Bella's got to go out there and earn $1, well, good for her. I get that they're bad guys too, but I just didn't think that this worked. I sat there and going like, this doesn't make me feel anything. And because of that, you went and got yourself a down. I hope you're happy, but you shouldn't be. Downs don't make people happy. A slightly strange promo with AJ Styles followed as WWE continued to do their empty arena thing. They stumbled on that last week, and now they're like, we'll just do it again. However, getting up. The champ was indeed in the building before the event itself started, so it kind of gave it an eerie, atmospheric feel, and he told us that he and Samoa Joe had been friends for 20 years, but now the Samoan one has gone too far. He would never attack somebody's family like Joe has done to his, but it doesn't matter because this Sunday at the pay-per-view, AJ Styles is going to prove he's better in the ring and walk away with the WWE Championship. Good for you, AJ. Good for you. The Becky Lynch Charlotte story continued after this, and what can I say? I liked it. Who would have thought given something time and making sure you injected some emotion into the mix would actually relate in good wrestling narrative? Up. They didn't even do anything out of the ordinary. It was one of those swerves you'd expect to see on any WWE TV show, but simple is alright. Charlotte took on Sonya Deville. Charlotte beat Sonya Deville with a figure of 8, and because she's a smiling good guy at the moment, she went into the fans and she started taking a selfie with a couple of kids. But then a member of the audience jumped her, and can you believe it? It wasn't a member of the audience at all. It was Becky Lynch. She was in disguise, and then she whooped the champ's ass. Everybody cheered her like the hero which she is, and because she got the upper hand on SmackDown, it means she'll lose at Hell in a Cell, and then we can all get really mad again. A quite frankly brilliant package featuring Samoa Joe after this. Give him the damn title up. He read a storybook that he'd written called Night Night AJ, and at the end of this book, it turned out that not only was Samoa Joe the champion, but he'd run away with Styles' family. I mean, how screwed up is that? How dark is that? Especially because SmackDown and WWE as a whole is meant to be PG. It goes to show if you give someone who's that skilled the right material, they'll make it work. It's really creepy. I tell you too, if WWE doesn't make him the champ, I am going to be super mad. All these months and weeks of hard work thrown out the window for no reason. You've got to justify everything he's saying and make you go, oh man, not only is he a psychopath, but he's a psychopath that just went and backed it up in the damn ring. And if you don't, where does that leave Joe? It leaves him in no man's land. Don't leave people behind, World Wrestling Entertainment, and change your stupid name. You can't form sentences when you're called World Wrestling Entertainment. An argument from 2002 there. When did they change their name? I'm gonna say 2002. Don't think it was 2002. But it's now 2002. Also saw Becky Lynch leaving the arena at this stage, but she let us know one more time that she too will win the title on Sunday. Go get him, champ. Which brings us to the highlight of the night, which means only one thing. That's right, you guessed it, it's time to not only give an up, but the golden up, which is now a real thing. We established it on SmackDown last week. It was then confirmed on Raw. Now it's here to stay. But yes, in the finals of the tag team tournament, Rusev Day actually bested Sheamus and Cesaro, and now they're going on to the pay-per-view to fight for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. I mean, what a day! Ooh da lally hooray! I mean, they're going to lose then, but whatever. There was no shenanigans here either. New Day were on commentary being their usual goofy selves, and eventually, Sheamus just got nailed with a match kick. 1, 2, 3, Rusev Day going on to be #1 contenders. And there's a really cool bit at the end too, because Sheamus was about to hit Rusev with the bro kick, and Aiden English got in there, and he pushed his friend out of the way, and he took the bro kick instead, because they're buddies. I still think we're eventually going to break up Rusev Day, probably at this Sunday's pay-per-view, but for now, just going to enjoy the ride. We then got Andrade Cien Almas taking on R-Truth, and that was pretty random and out of nowhere, but I enjoyed it. I was thinking about it as well, and you know what? I've been too harsh on R-Truth over the last couple of weeks. He's just come back from a really severe injury, and despite being like 45, whatever he is, he's still really talented. Man is an inspiration. Decent match here as well, as Selena Vega and Carmella were in their respective corners of each wrestler, and of course eventually they had a little scuffle on the outside of the ring. That distracted Truth, he got rolled up. 1, 2, 3, Almas grabbed the tights, because he's not a very nice person. We do have to give a quick down for the fact that somehow Carmella is now a face. She's teaming up with R-Truth, even though a couple of weeks ago she was a mega heel. Couldn't we have had some kind of story other than R-Truth uses Carmella to get into the main event of last week's show? Now these two are friends. Give me a break. And next was an awful segment between Asuka and Naomi. Down. Apparently Asuka is now doing I'm the foreign person, so I can't understand or speak English, even though she's been on the roster for years and hasn't had a problem with that since day one. Asuka at one point misunderstood Naomi. Naomi told her that she could feel the glow, and Asuka thought that she told her to go, so she started to leave, and then Naomi thought that Asuka had said something about teriyaki. All this did was made me never want to see this happen ever again, despite the fact it was meant to tell me why Asuka had helped out Naomi to begin with. This was It was then our main event, which did indeed pit Maurice taking on Brie Bella, and it was fine, but you know what? It wasn't exactly the best end to SmackDown, given that Hell in a Cell is only a few days away. It's gonna get it down. Although they said it was gonna be a match, it actually really wasn't at all. We had a load of stuff outside the ring between Miz and Daniel Bryan. Then Maurice and Brie Bella would get into little scraps. At one point, Maurice tried to leave, but Brie Bella threw her back in the ring. And really, what happened was it just finished after Brie punched the Miz in the face. There was no winner, there was no loser. There may have not even been the bell being rung. It just ended. And this wasn't like a terrible way to close the show, but it just backed up my point that I don't feel like we needed to add Brie Bella and Maurice into the Miz Daniel Bryan mix. They already had all the heat from that Talking Smack interview about 700 years ago, and now it feels like we've gone off-piste. We've headed off in the wrong direction. It's been overbooked. That's what it was. There were too many bookers in the kitchen, and now it's been overbooked. Like an egg. So yeah, a decent episode of SmackDown, but much like Raw, given this was meant to be the go-home edition, as we head to Hell in a Cell, it could have had a bit more punch. However, Becky Lynch and Charlotte is still absolutely brilliant, and my most anticipated match in a few days' time. Pow! Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's SmackDown. Like, share, and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com and read yourself some articles. And follow WhatCulture on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. My name was Simon Miller, this was WhatCulture, and make sure you join me soon for my Hell in a Cell predictions, and of course on Monday I'll be back to up those downs for Hell in a Cell.